So, Mark, did you see that video of the top 3 places to visit if you have no money? Pretty good advice.
Yeah, this ad or joke or whatever really it hit me because it was unexpected. I expected them to come with some over the top places like, oh, once you get to Thailand, it's super cheap. You can eat on $3 a day or whatever, and then they hit you with get a job essentially.
I mean, it's good advice and people can get a job, they can travel hack, they can do all of it, but without any money, it's pretty hard.
Yeah, I think it was exactly what a lot of people needed to hear, but unexpected compared to what you normally would get in this type of, TikTok type video.
Or you can just become a travel influencer like us.
There you go.
This week is not good. There's a lot of bad news here this week, Mark. A lot of devaluations, a lot of cutting back, a lot of changes that we don't like. And let's start with this, Schwab Platinum. This has been a great card that a lot of people hold because it gives you increased cash out values for your membership rewards points. Specifically, you can cash them out at 1.1 cents each. This used to be better, but they devalued it to 1.1 cents. And now they're not changing the redemption rate, but they're capping you at 1 million membership rewards per year. And even more specifically, was it 4 million per 7 years? So you can't even do it every single year. Very strange. But basically, a lot of people have been cashing out a ton of points at this increased value, and now they're cutting it down and saying only 1 million a year.
The 7 years thing is a bit strange. I don't understand why you would do that, and it's a weird limit. I mean, we talk about Amex lifetime, and lifetime to them is 5 to 7 years, so maybe they just really like doing things in 7-year chunks. I don't know, but I will give them credit. At least they gave a good long wind up to or runway to this. Doesn't kick off until October, and then from October to the end of the year you can do 1 million, and then starting next year, every calendar year, 1 million, up to 4 times in 7 years. It's not the worst, but it's not great. If it was 1 million a year, that'd be one thing, but the fact that it's 4 out of 7 is just a little bit too much. But I don't think most people will have to deal with this. This is more for big spenders, big earners, and that's a real big kick in the teeth for them.
Yeah, I'm not somebody who cashed out tens of millions of points, but I have cashed out more than 1 million points in a year. So this is tough, and I have that card to be able to cash out. I feel like this is going to be sort of reshuffling for people who are those big spenders who are earning the membership rewards in crazy numbers. And we've seen them hand out membership rewards in crazy numbers with all these deals the last few years. And I think this is sort of a response to that. They're not going to let you cash them out as easily. Now, the business checking account allows you to cash out at 1 cent each. So that's still an option, but that has a limit too, right?
Yeah, you have to have a business platinum card with that as well. But you can do up to 1 million a year. There's no 4 out of 7 years type of thing, but 1 million a year at 1 cent. And so you have a little bit of leeway there between the two. I kind of wish, like, if they would have rolled this out when it was 1.25 cents instead of 1 million a year at 1.25 cents, I personally would have been okay with that because I'm like you. I might do 1 million a year and cash out. I don't usually go above that. So it kind of would have been like a sweet spot for me. The fact that we're already getting a lower amount and then they do this as well, it hurts. But I mean, if you have a 2-player system, you can kind of play it a little bit. If you're above 524, you don't care about the hard pull. What I'm planning to do is, sign up in December, go for the triple dip where you can get the airline incidental that December, January 1st, and then the following January, because you get a 30-day window to cancel. You can do the same thing with points. Do 1 million points right away, 1 million points the next calendar year, and then 1 million more points that final January before you have to close the card. That's 3 million. You hop over to your P2 the next year, sign up, do the same thing. You can get another 3 million. So maybe you can make it work between the two that you're not hitting that cap.
For sure. You can make it work, but it stinks. And we buried the lead too, that after the million, you can still redeem points, but it's at 0.8 cents for a point. So from 1.1 cents to 0.8 cents. So you would never really want to do that. I mean, what a terrible value there.
Get gift cards at that point.
But let's talk about some good news with American Express. Amazon is coming into Prime Day, and Prime Day is coming next week, I think on the 16th and 17th of July. And usually as we lead up to Prime Day, there's all kinds of deals. You're seeing Target and Walmart have all their offers and everybody else. So keep your eye open for stuff like that. But one of the cooler things is the Amazon promotions when you use membership rewards. They also have versions with Chase and Citi and Discover that come out around Prime Day where you can use points to get a discount up to 40 or 50% off. Now, I got a version of this offer now, which required like 1,400 points be redeemed. Some offers only require you to redeem 1 point. Always make sure you just redeem the minimum number of points required because it's not a great value. But I use these a lot for Uber gift cards. For example, I got one of these 40% offs, bought an Uber gift card for $60. I can use that on Uber Eats or Uber. Works pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's the key is that you can use it on third-party gift cards or your regular Amazon shopping, but you can't use it on actual Amazon gift cards and stuff like that. So it has to be shipped and sold by Amazon, but the third-party gift cards fall into that. So they have like Best Buy, Home Depot, stuff like that. So I always look forward to it. I always check. This year I'm 0 for 3 or whatever that we've seen come out so far. But usually around Prime Day, they launch a whole bunch of new ones or refresh it and more people get targeted. So definitely worth checking. I know MTM has an article on it and a link for you to check your account to see if you can get it. And then I'm sure you guys will be hitting up all the Prime deals next week.
Yeah, we'll be covering that. I actually had this on 4 accounts, the 40% off version with 1,468 points, I think it required, which...
Rub it in, thanks.
So I did buy some Uber gift cards because I was running down. And like I said, I use those for Uber Eats. When you factor in those like 40% off promos that Uber Eats sends, plus you're getting 40% off the gift card, you actually end up being cheaper even after tipping the driver than just going there. And that's how I use it. So I don't use it at full price or whatever, but there's tons of opportunity for other gift cards, for stuff, anything that's basically sold by Amazon, good stuff. And there's going to be so many opportunities. So keep an eye out for that. And Miles to Memories, like you said, we'll be covering all of it. So back to the bad news, Mark. We got to go back into these devaluations. I think it was July 4th week, and I think the British just decided to declare war on us all over again because we have a couple of devaluations, and we'll start with this. Virgin Atlantic, they devalued Delta Awards, and this is something you've used a lot, being in Detroit. I haven't used it as much, but basically Virgin Atlantic was a cheaper option to book Delta flights, and now they've devalued a couple times, and they also added fuel surcharges to Delta flights that never had them before, just basically, I don't know, blowing up this entire redemption.
Worthless. They're worthless points now for the most part. I mean, if you're flying internationally and you want to fly business class, they're worthless. You have like $1,000 surcharges plus still 60, 70,000 miles, which is insane. And this is like, two main keys of travel hacking that we discuss is don't speculatively transfer because of a transfer bonus, because they can do this at any point. And the worst thing about this type of stuff is they did it without any notice. Most airlines do, which is sad to say. But like, let's say you transferred planning on booking one of these in the future, and you're like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this 40% bonus. You got it locked in. You're ready to book in a couple months, but now you can't even use the points for that. So that's tough. And then the other thing is focus on transferable currencies so that if your sweet spot goes away, you at least have other options. And this just really hurts because Delta Sky Miles are worth not a ton, and the awards are terrible. So you kind of use Virgin to work around that. We saw domestic flights kind of go away. You couldn't find space on Delta very easily. But they're still international. Now you can't really find those. Now they're expensive. I will say economy probably still makes sense, especially when they do their sales.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is the fuel surcharges on those Delta One tickets, basically going from nothing up to $1,000. That's a lot worse than them raising it by 10 or 15,000 miles, which is something you can sort of overcome. But when you all of a sudden have to come out of pocket $1,000, like you said, it's just dead. Like, nobody's going to do this.
Yeah.
And that's sad to see, but it's not a surprise with the way things are heading. And Delta owns 49% of Virgin Atlantic. So you have to think Delta had something to do with this, saying, stop doing all these redemptions. They already nuked their own program, and they probably made Virgin do this as well.
Yeah. And if you're sitting with, Virgin points, I would say wait until like once a year or so when Virgin Voyages opens up points bookings for their cruises. That's probably going to be your best use now, unless you want to fly economy, which flying to like London or something from the East Coast isn't terrible. I've done it before. If you're flying not too far into Europe, you can do it, or on the way back type of thing. So you might still find some value there. Hopefully you can find some domestic flights, but if you're stuck with a big mountain of Virgin, I would focus on the cruises.
So we have some more bad British devaluations coming, but I thought we would sneak in some good Japanese news, and that's that 7-Eleven in the United States is going to start to get some of the cool food items from 7-Eleven Japan. A lot of people don't know this, but 7-Eleven is actually a Japanese company. The 7-Eleven Japan actually owns 7-Eleven in the United States and owns the entire company. So it's very strange that we have this company that started in the US and eventually evolved, but now they're owned by the Japanese. They're going to add ramen and other stuff. But basically in Japan, you go and they have very high quality food items for cheap. People actually use their food for meals, unlike here. And as 7-Eleven in the US sees declining tobacco sales and gas sales, they're going to turn themselves into a food spot. And I'm all for it because the food at 7-Eleven in Japan is definitely quality.
Yeah, I know our buddy PDX Deals guy was there, like eating up all the stuff in 7-Eleven when he was there a couple weeks ago. And I haven't been there. You always hear about the Kit Kats for sure, but you don't hear as much about all these food things. And I know everybody's super excited for them. I've even seen, in other countries, 7-Eleven is a lot better than it is here, which is kind of crazy, but it makes sense that they would focus on tobacco and gas. Makes less sense now, so they kind of got to reimagine themselves, and that's something we see a lot of companies not do, so good for them for catching this ahead of time and trying to come up with something that will work. I'm excited. I didn't know that 7-Eleven was a Japanese company until I read this article, which I thought surprising, American-born company, but became owned by Japanese, so it would only make a ton of sense for them to push what works there and what people get excited about there over here and see if it works here as well.
Coincidentally enough, when I was in Japan, I looked this up and I only found out, so this is a month ago that I found out that 7-Eleven Japan owned the whole thing. And I was curious as to why they don't export more of the Japanese 7-Eleven experience, which is very high end almost, to the US where it's, very low end, I would say, based on my experiences.
Hey,
but
come on.
You go to, even in a nice neighborhood, you go to a 7-Eleven and it can be really rough. I do go in there. Yeah. I mean, they have good deals, but yeah, bring in the good food from Japan. That culinary experience, dare I say, is good stuff. So I'm excited for it. And anytime we can bring more Japan to the United States, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm just mad that they bought Speedway. That kind of ruined Speedway a bit for me, and I'm sad that they're merging together now. But as long as they leave the nachos, Sean, I have to have the nachos. I wish they still... Do you remember when they used to, scoop the cheese out of the big canister that was heating instead of these machines where you push it and 90% of the time you go into 7-Eleven, the cheese is out and it's so annoying, but I love those nachos.
Yeah, not a fan of that nasty chili and nachos. The cheese is fine, but that chili always turns my stomach. No. Let's have some ramen instead.
Bag chili is not a thing.
Ramen and sushi. Let's do it. So let's go back to England and British Airways this time devaluing. So did they work together to do this the same week where there's it's an Independence Week? Let's screw the Americans. But they devalued their awards for American and Alaska flights. And basically the way British Airways works is their award chart is based on distance. So back in the day, I remember this, one of my best redemptions was flying Chicago to Green Bay for a game. And back in the day, for those short, under 650 miles, it was 4,500 Avios. And you could often get 50% transfer bonuses. So you're spending 3,000 Avios. In that case, it was a $1,200 flight. Well, they've changed it a lot since then. And it's not 4,500 anymore. And it now is even more. Mark, guess how much that short 650 mile flight is these days?
Oh, man. You would hope that it'd be no more than double. So let's say 9,000 is the worst it should go, right?
Well, it was 8,250 after their most recent devaluation. Now it's 12,000. 12,000 Avios.
Which is what you used to pay for first class for the same flight. That's nuts.
Actually, it was 9,000 for first class for the same flight back in the day. It was double the 4,500. So coming into this, they've had a couple devaluations. So those old rates I talked about are long gone. But the short flights were 8,250 up to 16,000 for flights up to 3,000 miles. So think of a range 8,250 to 16,000. Now 12,000 up to 20,000. And this is an economy, and business and first class sort of went up as well. Man, I mean, this just isn't a sweet spot anymore.
Yeah, it's another one that you don't really need. If you're flying domestically, Avios really aren't worth anything anymore. American's been having a lot of great deals on their flights up with their own miles, especially close in. But even Alaska to fly American has been, crazy good at times. International or domestic, you can get really good rates. So those two currencies kind of work well to, book each other a bit. And maybe we don't need British Airways as much as we did back in the day when it was kind of the only way you could use transferable currencies to book American. I know, Alaska with Built now, so you have a little bit of options there, but it's tough because besides like Aer Lingus and stuff like that, what are we going to use our Avios for?
Well, there is some good news. As we know, Avios is a program that has multiple airlines. So Iberia has their version. Well, Iberia has also devalued and come up with these same new prices. But Qatar and Finnair both still have the old pricing as of
For now.
So, yeah, as of now. But I think with Finnair, you have to call. And so it's not always easy, but there might be some opportunity still. Well, let's talk about Hyatt. And Hyatt added Linder. This is a German hotel company a couple of years ago. And I think they don't own it, but it's a strategic partnership. And it took them a little while, but they've got a lot of these properties online. And they're very cheap. A lot of them are like category 1 or 2 in Germany. So this added a ton of options because Europe isn't their strongest sort of market. So now Hyatt has bought the Me and All hotel chain from Lindner, or I can't pronounce it. Sorry, Mark. I'm terrible with all of this. It's a German
Sprechen Sie
company.
Deutsch?
The crazy thing is Me and All Hotels is already part of Hyatt through this partnership that they have, and they're under the JDV brand. And now this is going to be its own brand, Me and All Hotels, which is good news for everybody who's going after that brand explorer. We get another brand coming, and Hyatt gets their own properties in Germany.
Yeah, I really love the Brand Explorer perk, so it's always great when we get something added because there's always a couple brands that I'll never go to, some of the all-inclusives and stuff like that. So getting other options in areas that I will go to is a nice perk. And after you get 5 different unique brands within the Hyatt system, you get a free night certificate. And then if you have a P2, like if you already stayed at this brand, like let's say it's a JDV, if you already stayed at that brand, you can book it through your significant other, your spouse's account, so they get it, and you can kind of play it that way where you're not, staying at a hotel that you're not getting any credit for. So that's kind of cool too. But this is interesting because I think they're going to position it not as like a new build, which they do have some new builds, but they're focusing more on this is to switch other hotel owners over to the Hyatt umbrella, and it's easier. Like they're not going to have as many specifications. It's going to be not as like uniform throughout, but they can expand a lot quicker that way.
Conversion brands are a big deal for these hotel companies because all of these hotels are owned by real estate trusts, and they're just looking for the best brand to partner with. Sometimes when a property needs renovation and investment, they use these conversion brands to sort of bring them into the fold. So it's a big deal for them. And it's great to see how many properties they have throughout Germany, not just these ones, but the fact that Hyatt has partnered with whatever the name of that company is that I can't say for some reason. And yeah, it's been nice to see that because a few years ago, Hyatt had nothing in Europe, or, very few properties. And when you look at that map now, there's so much more.
Yeah, and the loss of SLH hurts definitely in Europe. That was another good one. We haven't seen as many Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and the brand just isn't a great redemption rate, so you don't even really want to use points when staying there most of the time. So it's good to see them go more under their umbrella, their own, front, and see this expansion. They definitely need a bigger footprint. I don't think they really had much of anything in Germany specifically, maybe a couple hotels, less than a handful before this, so really good to see.
Yeah, they had a few Hyatt places. They used to have the Park Hyatt in Hamburg, which is not a Hyatt anymore. The Grand Hyatt in Berlin is a fantastic property if people are going there. But yeah, that was about it, just a handful, and this really sort of filled them out. So let's close with talking about one of my favorite brands, Frontier, my favorite airline, the one I fly all the time. And this lady had this story about going to Jamaica, and basically her outbound flight was canceled for, I think, mechanical issues or something, but she was given the option to get a refund on that. She still made her way to Jamaica, and then when she went to go get her flight back on Frontier, they said it was canceled because she asked for a refund. And I had a little bit of experience a couple years ago. I was in Dallas, and there was this big ice storm, and Frontier was my airline, and basically our flight got canceled along with 500 others. And they sent me an email asking me to either reschedule the flight or cancel it for a refund. And if I canceled it, my flight would be canceled. And this was a one-way flight, not a return, but the email was pretty clear about it. Anyway, she got stuck. Now she's mad because she had to spend $1,000 to get back.
Yeah, and that's the tough one. And I think like even they were flying and they were almost to Jamaica and they had to turn around, go back to Miami. So it made it even more difficult. Like they went back. They didn't know what the deal was. She ended up getting there the next day, but they're never going to offer a refund for a flight you did take. And I think she ended up taking the flight with them, the rescheduled flight or whatever. So if you click refund, it probably messed up. I don't even know why they offered it since they were on another flight. I don't know. Or maybe she took a different airline. There's not a lot of detail in the story there. But you can't expect them, if it is weather, they're not going to give you food vouchers. They're not going to give you a hotel. They'll give you maybe another flight in a couple days type of thing. And that's the problem with Frontier is they don't have the biggest, route map. They don't have a lot of flights going to the same places each day. They might go to this place Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if your Monday flight gets canceled, you're stuck there till Wednesday unless you want to go elsewhere. Where like American, they have a lot of hubs. They can work around you, or Delta, stuff like that. Or they have partnership agreements where they can put you on a different airline. Frontier doesn't have any of that. Spirit doesn't have any of that. That's the tough thing. Everybody has delays. Everybody has hiccups. But when you really get in a bad spot, they can't help you out in the way you need to be. And I think that's where miles and points come in. If we get stranded there, we can use that to get out. We have that as our safety net precaution that if something like this does happen, we can still get home without spending a ton of money. But regular people, if there's something going on, you might not want to fly a low-cost carrier.
Sure, be aware of that, but also be aware of the fact that anytime you cancel a ticket for a refund or whatever, everything that's attached to that ticket is going to get canceled. And I don't blame her for this. It's not like she should have known that. I'm sure that maybe some fine print told her that, this is an expensive lesson learned. But just understand that if there is a PNR and you have flights on there and that gets canceled out, or you miss a flight for one of the things on the ticket, let's say you miss the outbound, a lot of times the airline will cancel the whole ticket. So yeah, I think that your solution is the right one. Get miles and points. You're going to end up in something like this, some sort of stressful situation where you're stuck. And I've had it happen a couple times, in miles and points to the rescue. And there's just nothing more to say than that.
I think this is another good reason to book one-way flights, even if it's, you're on the same airline both ways. If the price is the same, sometimes it'll be a little bit more if you book one ways, but oftentimes it's the same price, especially on Frontier. They don't really give a discount for round trip type stuff. So if you are doing that, book 2 one-ways. And then if you run into this issue on the, going out, it doesn't affect the flight coming back and vice versa, all that stuff. Like you can maneuver a lot easier and not worry about it. So book one-ways when possible. And remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, buying at the airport will save you some money too for the low-cost carriers.
Good stuff. So let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about today, getting stranded in Jamaica, all of the devaluations, Hyatt's new brand, everything we talked about. Leave a comment. We do a new show every Wednesday, and I think Mark and I have some bonus shows coming up in the next few weeks. He doesn't know about that, but I think we need to do a couple bonus shows that we've been talking about. So we'll be back for then. Leave a comment, subscribe, tell people about our channel. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.